That voice in your head that tells you that you're failing as a mom, falling behind, or not even doing enough. Yeah, that one. It isn't you. Most moms believe that voice is just being honest, keeping them accountable, or pushing them to be better for their family. But what if that voice isn't truth at all? What if listening to it is actually keeping your nervous system stuck in stress and guilt and keeping you from becoming the mother that you want to become? I work with heart-centered moms who desperately want to do better for their kids, but feel crushed by self-criticism. And I've seen how this voice is formed, stored in their body, and passed down. So in this video, I'm going to show you what that inner critic really is, where it comes from, and how to start separating from it so that you can become a more present, regulated parent. So let's dive in. If being hard on yourself actually made you a calmer, more patient mom, it would have worked by now. That voice is relentless, right? It's not just passing thought. It's a full-time narrator who's taking up residence in your mind, giving you a play-by-play of your life. And its favorite subject is everything you're doing wrong. And I know it sounds so much like you. It knows exactly which buttons to push. It has an all-access pass to your deepest insecurities and your oldest wounds. If this feels familiar, I really want you to hear me. You are not alone. This is a huge part of our human experience. The problem is we just assume that this harsh, critical voice is the voice of reality. It's just who we are. But I'm here to tell you today that narrator is lying to you. And figuring out where it came from is the first step to finally turning down the volume. But first, ask yourself what actually happens in your body when things feel like they're too much. Where do you feel it first? Your chest, your jaw, your breath tightens. If you want a simple step-by-step way to do that in real moments, I created a guide, the Calm Code. It walks you through how to regulate your body, respond instead of react, and feel present again when you are in the moment. You can go ahead, download it. It's completely free. The link is the first one in the description below this video. If that voice sounds familiar, it's probably because you've heard it before. Here's the big reveal. Your inner critic isn't an original voice. It's more like an echo. It's a psychological ghost from your past that you've been carrying for so long. You've mistaken it for your own reflection. Psychologists call this process internalization. It's how the words, attitudes, and beliefs of others get absorbed into our own self-talk. What started as someone else's opinion eventually hardens into what feels like your identity. And let's trace those origins because this is where things start to make sense. For many of us, this voice is an echo from childhood. A kid's brain is like a sponge, wide open to influence, and their sense of self is still being created. So if you grew up with constant criticism, impossible standards, or even just subtle disapproval from parents, teachers, peers, you can internalize that message that you are fundamentally flawed. Of course, our own temperament and other life experiences play a huge role, but it's a big piece of the puzzle. The inner critic can become an internalized authority figure that keeps judging you long after you've grown up. But that's not the only source. Part of this is just biology. Our brains evolved with a negativity bias, an ancient alarm system that's designed to keep us safe by constantly scanning for threats. This is the exact way your ancestors survived because they were hyper aware of cheetahs, alligators, whatever is creeping in the dark. In our modern world, that system doesn't see physical predators, but it sees social ones. When you start trash talking yourself, the brain's threat detection center, which is the amygdala, will light up like a Christmas tree. This is going to trigger a cascade of stress hormones like cortisol, and your brain thinks the threat is real and goes right into lockdown. That critic isn't actually trying to hurt you, right? It's probably just a text, or it could be even just a social post. And finally, that voice gets louder when our lives feel out of hand, chaotic. Self-criticism can be a twisted way to feel in control. When the world seems unpredictable, blaming ourselves creates a strange illusion of power. If it's your fault, then maybe you can fix it. But the evidence shows the opposite is going to be true. When we have high self-criticism, this is a known risk factor for depression and actually makes it harder to cope. It feels so real because it uses your voice and your memories, but its script is not your own. So to be very clear, that voice isn't trying to destroy you, it's trying to protect you. So when we recognize the inner critic as an echo, that's the first major win. Now you can start the work of separating from it and choosing a different voice. This isn't about starting a war in your head or trying to crush the critic. That just makes it yell louder. Instead, this is going to be a gentle, steady process. It's a method inspired by principles from acceptance and commitment therapy, also known as ACT, which teaches us not to eliminate difficult thoughts, but to change our relationship with them. We're going to do this with a simple 3-step method, okay? We're going to notice and separate, question the intention, and then choose your true voice. So let's go into notice and separate. You just have to notice the critic without getting swept away by its story. We don't hear a thought that says, I'm a failure. We just feel like a failure, right? We feel it in our body. The goal here is to create a tiny bit of space between you and the observer and the thought being observed. And this technique is called cognitive diffusion. Here's how you practice it. Instead of getting lost in the drama, just say to yourself, I see you. My mind is telling me a story that I'm not good enough. Or, I'm having that thought again. This is going to reframe the criticism from a fact into what it really is. Just a thought, a string of words floating through your mind. This act of calm observation immediately creates distance. You're no longer the target of the attack. You're the curious observer of a familiar mental habit. And now we're going to question its intentions. So this step is all about reframing the critic, not as a bully, but as maybe a misguided bodyguard. Remember, its core job, however twisted, is to keep you safe. So with genuine curiosity, you can gently ask, what are you trying to protect me from right now? So when the voice says, don't even try, you'll just embarrass yourself, pause and ask yourself, is this voice trying to shield me from the sting of failure, from the shame of being judged? Or when it says, you aren't as smart as everyone else here, ask, is this trying to protect me from being rejected? You're going to find that almost all self-criticism is rooted in deep fear. And that fear is not being loved, not being safe, not being seen, not being heard, or not feeling like you belong. By questioning its intentions, you are going to change this whole dynamic. You're no longer fighting an enemy. You're trying to understand a scared part of you, which then you can provide exactly what that part needs in order to feel loved, seen, safe, heard, or belong. The final step is to actively bring in a new voice, the voice of self-compassion. This is the critic's kryptonite. Now, for a lot of people, this can feel incredibly fake. If you were taught that you only deserve praise when you are perfect, good girl syndrome, being kind to yourself when you mess up can feel totally foreign. And your brain just needs some new reps to rewire that old response. So you're going to start small. This practice is simple. When you feel that sting of self-criticism, consciously talk to yourself the same way you'd talk to a good friend. If your friend made a mistake at work, you wouldn't say, you're a total idiot. You're going to get fired. You'd say, hey, it's okay. That was a tough spot. I totally understand how you're feeling. You did your best. And you know what? Let's figure this out. You're going to offer them kindness, understanding, and encouragement. That's the voice you need to practice for yourself. And you can even make it physical. Place a hand over your heart, work with facial maneuvers, and really take slow, steady breaths. And if you're starting to realize that your reactions aren't just your mindset, but actually deep in your nervous system and you want a clear way to calm your body in the moment, I made something for you. Again, it's a free guide called the Calm Code. It's going to show you exactly what to do when overstimulation hits so that you can respond instead of react, which you can download. It is the first link in the description below. This work isn't about silencing thoughts. It's about renewing your mind and body together. Romans 12:2 reminds us that transformation happens when our inner patterns change. And today, you learned how to begin that renewal in your nervous system safe way. Every time that you are going to choose compassion over criticism, you are going to model that healing to your child. And now that you know that the inner critic in your head is not your voice, you might be wanting to learn that what the mother wound is that makes you feel guilty about resting. That's exactly what we're unpacking in the next video, because when you understand why rest feels unsafe, everything starts to make sense.